Welcome to the Patriot Barbie podcast. I'm your host, Lindsey Graham, author and conservative activist. I love Jesus. I love America. I'm a proud wife, mom of 3, and I'm having bold and witty conversations with America's patriots, the ones that cancel culture desperately want to blacklist. Trust me, I've been there. In 2020, I defied government lockdowns in Oregon, reopened my salon, and became an icon of freedom. I've been targeted by government and raging liberals every day since, and I refuse to back down. Patriots, I'm here to tell you, your values are worth fighting for. The Patriot Barbie podcast starts now. Hey guys, welcome back to the Patriot Barbie podcast. I'm Lindsey Graham, Patriot Barbie, your host. I have a fantastic guest today. I'm loving this whole platform of me getting to just kind of chit chat, talk casually with people, and bring on guests that are changing the world and changing America. So as you all know, I went to Student Action Summit with Turning Point USA, whom I am an ambassador for. And it was in Tampa, Florida. It was a long weekend, mostly, directed at college students, high school students, kind of making the movement in that age group of, alerting them into conservative values and freedom and, a little bit of politics, all that stuff. But one of the sponsors of that event was Public Square, whom I am also an ambassador for. And I can't talk enough about how badly this country needs this specific company. And I have been talking about this for 2 years. So as most of you know, I was canceled in Oregon in 2020 for being a freedom fighter and for standing up and opening my business against lockdowns. And what I needed more than anything in that moment was freedom fighters, conservatives, Christians, people who respected what I did, to come to my business and, to not put it gently, give me their money. Like, I needed their financial support. What I never went public with, because I was so embarrassed about, was that my stylists were leaving my salon in droves because of my presence on the media, my presence as a conservative public figure, which I was not aware of, what I stood for, how controversial it was. I don't know how freedom was controversial, but it is, apparently. And I was fighting this very public fight, but behind the scenes, I was losing everything. And I never wanted to tell anybody that because I didn't want the liberals to have a party and celebrate my devastation. What I could have used was a platform like Public Square, where people could say, I'm going to change my hairstylist and I'm going to go to this freedom fighter. I'm going to go buy my shampoos at this salon because I support what she stands for. There has been a lack of a movement in that area. And for the last 2 years, I have said that we can vote with our dollars. We can make a difference by supporting the people in business who are standing up for what's right, speaking out, getting canceled. It would have made a world of difference for me. And although I don't regret that, because I believe that God had a very, very distinct plan for my life, and that was part of it. Getting canceled was part of it. Now I'm a staunch advocate that people stop giving their money to woke liberal companies who in turn take your money, donate it to Planned Parenthood, donate it to Black Lives Matter, donate it to the Biden campaign, the Obama campaign. It's like handing your bullets to the enemy during war and then turning your back and walking away. And so I have tried on a very small level to start like a Facebook group or some kind of text thread or whatever, saying, hey, let's start a coalition of, conservative businesses. And this is who we do business with only. And where can we find those resources? And so many people have tried to do it. And finally, I met the man who did it. And he did it right, and he did it well, and he is taking it to the top. And this is not the ambassador of Public Square speaking. This is me as a conservative who actually walks this walk every day, every single day. If I need something, a cup of coffee, a new chiropractor, massage therapist, I'm extra. We all know that. But I will call that company and I will say, hi, no, this is a weird question, but I need to know if your owner or your CEO or your boss is conservative. And I politely hang up if they are not. I praise them and accolade them and give them my business if they are. Instead of being awkward like that now, I could just go on the Public Square app and I can look up coffee shops chiropractors / therapists, hairstylists, makeup artists, whatever you need. My podcast guy is conservative and Christian. I mean, putting my money where my mouth is, practicing what I preach, walking the walk every single day. And I can do that because of Public Square. So my guest today is the CEO of Public Square, Michael Seifert. He lives and works in San Diego, California, married to Sarah Gable Seifert, the love of his life, whom I've met, and she's a doll. Michael is a passionate leader who is driven by a love for people and a hunger to build simple solutions to complex problems. With a background in political science and organizational leadership in both the nonprofit and for-profit sectors, he's spent his adult life leading movements that enhance the lives of, quote, we the people. And Michael, I am so honored to have you on today. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Lindsay. That was a glowing monologue. I don't even feel like I need to talk anymore.
It was a monologue. I feel bad. I'm kind of saying everything that needs to be said.
I forgot I was even on the podcast. I was like, man, I could just listen to this for an hour. So yeah, I mean, I don't even know that I have anything to add. I'm blown away.
Well,
honestly.
That's a wrap.
Yeah, seriously, you're who we've built this for. So to hear your story, it's a reminder of why we're doing what we're doing. And it's honestly very inspiring. And so sometimes we can get so running toward the achieving of different goals or milestones and the building of the platform and promoting it, marketing it, all these things, and to just sit for a second and remember why we're doing what we're doing and to hear the stories of how it's impacting people. Yeah, it means the world. If it was just for that example, it's all worth it. And so
thank you so much. Well,
that you had me on.
If nothing else, when you go to bed at night, you've changed my life, and that's what matters. But I am curious I mean, you're going to have so much to talk about, because even though I know you personally now and I'm very involved in Public Square, I'm curious when this idea hit you, how it hit you, and why you said, let's actually make this happen.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So December of 2020, heading into the Christmas season and New Year's, obviously it was the heart of COVID, and my wife and I were very disheartened by what we had witnessed. If you go back even years before that, this concept of the parallel economy had been emerging, where some businesses would partner with you in your values and the traditional values, the Judeo-Christian values that had made this country so special in the first place: life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, belief in this American experiment, found and grounded in the protection of individual liberties allotted to every single individual in the public square. These principles were clearly under attack from some companies and embraced by other companies. That had been building for years. And then COVID happens, and COVID puts a big spotlight on all the problems that already existed. People like to think that COVID was this brand new thing that came out of nowhere, and the government's tyrannical response to COVID was just unbecoming of the government. And the reality is, it was so tyrannical, it was so unbecoming of what our government was supposed to be. But COVID itself and the response to it was just symptoms of a deeper issue that have been going on for years. So the government has been tyrannical for years. They've been stripping away the liberties of Americans for years. Corporations had been in bed with big government, which is actual fascism, by the way. Tell Antifa that real fascists are in Silicon Valley, partnered with big government to swing elections. That's actual fascism.
Thank you.
But we'd watched that for years, and then COVID puts this big illuminating spotlight on how bad the problem really was. And so we head to Florida, actually, to visit my parents in the great free state of Florida. We're from San Diego, California, and so it was nice to get away. And we're sitting there over New Year's, and my wife and I had this piece of paper that was basically all the businesses in our local region that we knew that we could feel confident supporting, because these businesses had taken a stance for our values, for the freedoms that we believe should be protected. They also stood for their employees' freedoms. They didn't require them to wear masks or receive vaccinations. I mean, these are the businesses that have made our community special. They had sort of bucked the trend of globalist corporatism in order to prioritize small business in the public square. They were proud of their country. So we had these businesses on a piece of paper of all different industries, and we had really hungered for more people to know about these businesses, and also for our own spending habits to completely shift away from woke corporatism towards more businesses like these. At the same time, felt very alone, felt like, gosh, it feels like if you look in the news, the whole world's against us. And the reality is there are so many more of us than we realize. And I would actually argue that there's more of us that believe in these values than there are that are against the values.
I agree.
we're sitting there and we're in Key West, Florida, and we are just praying for a solution. And I had this idea of like, well, you know what? I love technology. What if we gave everyone their list? What if we connected them to each other and the list of businesses in their region that they could feel confident supporting? And what if we could actually sort of engineer it to where it was a social experience? So you're connecting with these businesses past just a transaction, but actually on a social level. So you allow for the consumers to connect with each other and then connect with the businesses, all with the foundation of similar values. Like, what could change about the American economy? This was the dream, is that if we want to change the country, you have to start locally. You have to start with your public square, hence the name. And so it sort of grew from there. That was January of 2021. February of 2021, brought a dear friend in to be my business partner, who ended up coming full time in June. And he was all in, bought in. We started to run in terms of how could we put this together from a product perspective. And in March, started hiring a few other friends. April, started raising money. May, finished the product roadmap. June, started writing lines of code. October, released our soft launch in San Diego County. Early December, spread out to all of California. March 7th, began our nationwide expansion. And as of July 4th, 2022, just a few weeks ago, we were officially live in all 50 states. So it has been quite a whirlwind. Today, we're well over 100,000 downloads. We've got 13,000 businesses on the platform. And every single day, we are hearing stories of users and business owners, community leaders that are sensing their communities actually tangibly change, because the power structures of society are shifting back toward we the people, because people are feeling empowered with their wallets to make change. People feel like they're part of the revolution with a coffee purchase. And that's really an incredible feeling that's unique to our platform. Last thing I'll mention is that one of the greatest things about this experience has been to hear how, obviously from a liberating perspective, it's been such a dream come true to witness consumers feel liberated with the power of their wallet, and also businesses feel liberated because they're taking a stance in the public square for these values that we hold so dear. The other nice thing is that it's just wise from a business perspective. Businesses that are willing to stand out today and are willing to say, I am going against the woke status quo. I am going to stand for truth, for righteousness, and individual liberties. Those businesses are getting rewarded not only with that liberation, but also in profits. Goya Foods was a great example. If you remember Goya Foods in 2020, The CEO of Goya came out and said, I'm voting for Trump. And the left absolutely reamed him. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman from New York, came out and said that we should boycott Goya. Well, then Goya says, fine, game on. They had their most successful month of sales they had ever had, to the point that the CEO of Goya said, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, we are awarding you with Employee of the Month. And they hung her
Oh
picture
my
in the
gosh.
hallway.
Oh my
So
gosh.
there's really a movement happening. There's a parallel economy that's being created, one that's centered on these freedoms that we hold so dear. And we're thankful to be the largest entity in this space that's helping broker those connections between consumer and business.
Absolutely, you are. And you know, when you said it makes consumers feel like they're changing the nation with their dollars. I mean, you watch these really big speakers, Charlie Kirk, Don Jr., and even I have a My Pillow code. And it's like, go buy a My Pillow and you did your part for the year. And it's kind of true, but you're like, okay, when you buy his stuff, you're supporting someone who is doing something to fight for this nation and to fight for what's right. And when you said that, it's the first thing I thought of, is because now people can do more than just buy a pillow. They can, if they really want to make a difference and they're not outspoken like me, they're not bold, they're not freedom fighters, they're not going to defy the government, they're not willing to go to jail, they're not going to go peacefully protest or whatever it is. You just don't, that's not who you were. That's not what you were made for, but you want to make a difference. Here is where you can quietly, uncancelably, passively get on public square and just tell yourself and your family, we are only doing business with these people because we know that our money is fighting the battle that we want to fight. Their values are aligned. I don't have to worry that I'm actually funding my own enemy when I do this. And anyone in the country can use the app, can get online. Any business owner can get on, get verified, sign the contract that they align with your values. And they are doing something, whether it's big, where they feel like it's big and loud, or at least it's something. And that makes me so happy, because there are people that don't feel like they're doing anything. And God didn't make us all the same. I could never do what you do. I mean, your mind is brilliant, and your political knowledge and your business ethics. I can be a very loud, outspoken, public figure, influencer, whatever you want to call it. these people are like, yeah, I don't want to get canceled, don't want to lose my kids, don't want to get slandered, but what can I do? You can do this, and it's that easy.
Yep. Yeah, you're spot on. I mean, I think part of the challenge that people feel sometimes is like, well, if I can't boil the whole ocean, then I might as well not start at all. And,
Boil the whole
yeah,
ocean.
yeah.
I've
And
never heard that.
yeah, boiling the ocean's impossible. You can't start there. There's a lot of
Right.
people that are like, because there's not an alternative to this iPhone, then what's the point of even trying? And
Right. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot.
an unfortunate way of thinking, because people end up not taking any steps at all. And
Mhm.
what I tell people all the time is just start with a cup of coffee. Like stop going to Starbucks and go to this other place. It's the same distance
Yes.
from your house. It's on the app. Like, let's just start there. Or, hey, you were going to buy clothes at Lululemon. There's these 3 other alternatives that are right here that are honestly better quality. They're cheaper and they don't pay for abortions. Like, let's start
Right.
there, make one purchase, and then make a second, and then make a third. And you'll start to realize that, wow, I really can shift my entire buying habits to be founded upon the platform of my values. It just takes that first step. And so while I
Right.
do still have an iPhone, and I'm so frustrated at Apple and the way that they've operated as a company, you can't boil the ocean. You have to start
Mhm.
somewhere, because the reality is, once I start moving and I actually do take these steps and I shift some of these spending habits away and I begin to realize how significant that can be, even for these daily purchases, those companies start to take notice. Part of the reason that some of these companies are so progressive and authoritarian is because it was just a snowball that started to roll, and now they're not doing anything to stop it. In the same way, we can do that, only reverse engineer it. We can start a snowball that starts rolling with 1 purchase, 2 purchase, then 5, then 15, where all of a sudden millions of Americans that are interacting with the public square in a completely different freedom-centric way. And then the big corporations start to take notice, and they realize that, like, wow, the profit structures are shifting. It's actually not popular to fund abortions. The Americans are punishing us for this, as we
Mhm.
should. And so,
Yep.
that's how we create change, even with Apple. People don't realize that, like, if you start making 5 purchases a week different that centers around your values, Apple will eventually take notice, even if you still
Mhm.
have that iPhone, because they're going to learn from socioeconomic and macroeconomic trends. And they're going to realize that it's not profitable to go woke. Go woke, go broke is a very real thing. And the
Yes, it
way that
is.
you can make it more real is by you individually moving $1 away with your wallet, and then 2. And then,
Absolutely.
so,
Yep. I mean, it feels good. It does. It feels really good to me to go the extra mile, the extra dollar. I will pay more at a conservative business because I know it makes a bigger impact economically, socially, and biblically. I mean, for me, and I know for you, everything we do is faith based, and I want to support people with Christian values that are following God and bless their business. But big picture wise, you say, and I agree, there are more of us than them. And we know this because we've seen who's been elected president twice, only got inaugurated once. If there are more of us doing this, I think I think that what everyone needs to picture is the end game, the dream, the vision. And the vision is, yes, it feels good that I'm doing my part. But if we all did this, if we all did our part, imagine a world where you stopped giving the woke businesses your money, so then they stopped donating to Planned Parenthood because they didn't have the funds to do it, and now Planned Parenthood doesn't exist. I mean, that is how big we can take this, to the point where you stop drinking Starbucks. Starbucks starts to lose their profits. They're no longer like, all right, we're donating $1 million to Planned Parenthood every year. We got to keep that. We got to reinvest in the company because we're failing. They're either going to change who they're donating their money to, or they're going to stop donating. And when Planned Parenthood doesn't have support, what's going to happen to it? It's going to die. We are talking about saying, yes, you little moms of 3 on your way to taking the kids to school, if you just drive 1 block farther or spend 50 cents more, we could abolish abortion. Like, how amazing is that to think about? That's such a big picture, and yet it is within our reach.
yep. Yeah, you're spot on. I mean, that's people don't realize the power that they have with their wallets. If you want to know
Right.
how decisions are made in society, look at where the money goes. Follow the money. That's always a great kind of key for success in terms of inquiring about why decisions are made. And so you have money, you're the consumer, you have the spending power. In a capitalistic economy, you have the ability to move the way that society is trending with the shifting of your dollars. And I think the more that people can wake up and realize that, we're in for a really beautiful and bright future. I'm hopeful about the future of our nation because I see people starting to shift their lives toward their values. And it's taking effect. I mean, these companies that have
Mhm.
gone woke are starting already to feel the type of heat that you are describing. Netflix lost over 950,000 subscribers in the last year. I mean,
Who did?
it's not good for them. Starbucks closed 17 stores. Disney stock's down 40%. I mean, these corporations are feeling the pain of
Good.
consumers saying, "Hey, you guys revealed your cards, and I want nothing of it." Americans are
So
not buying
amazing.
what these entities are selling. The other thing is, not only is it sort of like a conservatism versus progressive authoritarianism, there's also just a value in supporting small businesses in general. The world of globalism has ripped apart what has made America special. I mean, our country sold its soul to China 3 decades ago, and we sacrifice so much on the altars of cheap convenience. And
Mhm.
so the big ask I have of American consumers often is, do reroute your lives for the sake of this country, not just for the sake of your values. Our values are what hold together the fabric of this country. So if you let your values go, you're also letting this American dream, the American way of life, fall at the wayside as well. And so, I'm a big believer even in supporting these small businesses for the sake of them being the entities that make America special. Like another Starbucks on a street corner down the street from me does not make this country more special.
No.
Another Invita Coffee that's right across the street from me right now where I'm doing this interview, amazing coffee shop run by this young American woman who actually immigrated her family 2 generations ago from Italy. They're a picture of the American dream. She has these 2 coffee shops that are thriving. They're both on the app. Like that makes my community special, not another Starbucks. Another Amazon fulfillment center down the road does not make my public square special. Another family owned business that's run by Christians that's thriving and they're serving their community, that does make America special. And so I think there's also some like American spirit we have to recapture because the last 2 decades, 3 decades of globalism has really torn apart so much of the beautiful fabric of the American experiment. And I hope that with Public Square, we can help bring some of that back as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when you talk about small businesses, I think about the fact that, I used to be a small business owner. I'm kind of not now. I don't know if you'd call a podcast a small business, but when you patron those people, not only are you, voting with your dollars and taking money out of big corporations, but you're helping fund someone's dream. Like some man or woman or some family dug into their finances, applied for a loan, slaved away, blood, sweat, and tears, worked for years, probably like what you did with this app, to build something that they could be proud of. And when you go support a business like that, you're supporting their dream. And, especially now, small businesses corporations did not take any hits during COVID. They thrived. The people that suffered were the small business owners. And they are, if they are still open and barely surviving, they are this close to closing. And the one thing they need more than anything is for people to come and bring their money. I mean, you talked about giving up your iPhone. I know I'm like, I walk the walk every day. There's certain things I can't figure out yet. One of them is the iPhone. And just last month, I finally took the Amazon app off my phone. And it was such a big accomplishment because it was like, okay, that's the one thing I can't. It's the one thing I can't. I took it off and I started making shopping lists on my iPhone and saying, all right, I'm going to start looking up businesses. And I actually do this. I'm not just saying this because you're on the podcast. I go to Public Square and I start looking up which businesses offer which items that I can go and get those and buy from their company. And when I go in there, guess what else that does? It gives me the opportunity to have a more social, normal human interaction with another human being. Now, I know that conversation is going to be pleasant because they think like me. I'm not worried that I'm going to be talking to a leftist while I'm wearing my Trump hat. But a lot of what COVID did, besides ruining small businesses financially, was it isolated people. And that was totally, totally with intention. But we live in a world now where you can get anything you want online, anything from Amazon delivered to your door. You self checkout at Walmart. I mean, there's as little human contact as we can possibly get away with, short of being a hermit. So when I'm saying, okay, I'm no longer going to shop on Amazon, I'm going to go to Public Square, I'm going to find these small businesses, I'm also enriching my own life. I'm having human, beautiful, intimate conversations with normal people that align with my values. I'm spreading the gospel. I'm building a network, I'm building a community, and I'm letting them know, guess where I found you? I found you on this new platform. And it lets them know my people are supporting me. This is how I get support. And previously, a year and a half ago, if you were to say, if I come out of the closet as a conservative, I'm going to get canceled. Well, I know that being canceled is the best thing in the world for a conservative. But to tell that person, no, I only came to your business because you're a conservative, lets them know I'm not alone. I can speak out. My beliefs are making a difference. And I'm sure, I mean, have you gotten feedback like that from businesses that have signed up saying, hey, I'm either really scared about this or, as an ambassador, I've tried to sign people up and they're like, well, what kind of app is it? They're actually worried that if I put them on the app, they're going to get canceled. What kind of feedback have you gotten from business owners about being either nervous or excited?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say that part of what helps so much is when business owners are able to realize how many other businesses there are on the platform. Strength in numbers really does something mentally that's very helpful for their willingness to jump into the experience. What we heard early on without that critical mass was, yes, what if I get canceled? What if my business gets protested? What if, even in the extreme situations, what if I get vandalized? And all these concerns are valid because the left has gone insane. I mean, they're
Mm-hmm.
certifiably insane. Not everyone on that side, but the ones that have the megaphones, they
The
are.
majority.
Yes, exactly. And so I always say, it's a valid concern. The reality is it hasn't happened to any of our businesses. And as that number grew larger and larger, we used to hear, especially the first 100 businesses on the platform, they all had that concern. And then once we hit 200, 300, 500, 1,000 businesses, like we stopped hearing the concern. Once they were able
Good.
to look at the platform and realize, like, wow, there's a vibrant community here. I mean, this thing has the potential of Yelp. It's really a beautifully dynamic platform full of lots of different industries and lots of different sizes of businesses. And some of them are more locally focused and others are more online focused. I mean, we have 2,000 businesses that are just online shopping. And so when business owners can see that and hear about the other success stories of businesses that have joined the app and then see their profits surge through the roof and have those liberating experiences where they have someone come in and look them in the eyes and thank them for their stance in the public square, it makes it all worthwhile and they jump in. And then everyone has been pleased to see that, the left has almost looked at this like, well, it's too big to cancel. How are you going to cancel 13,000 of us? Like, good luck. And as that
Right.
number
Yeah.
gets larger and larger, it just becomes more daunting to try to cancel us. And so, with 100, 200 businesses, that was a little bit more of a valid concern. And as time's gone on, it's amazing how fortified this has become to protect those small businesses and send more business their way.
Yeah. And you're saying did you say there's over 13,000 businesses registered on the app right now? Yeah.
You got it.
Okay.
Yep,
That's
we're
quite a bit.
right about 13,000. And you nailed it, by the way, in terms of how much small businesses need it in this season. There was a big poll that was run last week. Alignable, this big networking platform, found that 47% of small businesses are at risk of closing this fall. The entire nation, 47%. It was a very robust nationwide poll. 47% of small businesses are at risk of closing this fall, 35% last year. So it's up 12% from last year. This economy is taking a hit on these businesses. And actually, a majority of those businesses in the 47% said that they would need 125% increase in revenue from last year this fall to stay open, which is a nearly impossible feat for most businesses. And so with many of those businesses being the type that make their community special, many of them are found on public square, it is very, very important that consumers route their lives to go support these people. Otherwise, we're going to end up with a world where all you have is Starbucks. They all hate you. Mm-hmm. They all donate to things that are against you, and you're stuck with it because you didn't make your changes earlier. And so I've been trying to inspire people to say, hey, it's now or never. The time is now. Let's start. Again, take a few of those purchases and move them. And I am hopeful because when we got started in this, we ran a nationwide survey, about 27, 30 states. And we asked them varying backgrounds socioeconomically, diverse backgrounds, but they all shared these conservative values. I asked them, how many of you would drive 10 minutes farther or spend 10% more to spend every dollar in alignment with your values? And 98% of our respondents said yes. So there really is a market for this. People want to do this. They just need to know how. And so that's where we come in.
And now they know how. Yeah. Well, another point that I would love to make, and you triggered this thought earlier about small businesses, is if we lose all the small businesses, we lose the small business owners who are independent, free thinking, critically thinking. And now, like you're saying, let's say every coffee shop in the United States from now on as a Starbucks, we suffer real communism in a sense that Starbucks is pro vaccine, pro mask, pro I don't give a crap about your values or your freedoms. Now, every small business owner who lost their business and all of their employees are forced to work under a company that doesn't care about their freedoms. And so this is not a slippery slope. This is a dangerous, dangerous slope that we're already on. And by supporting those small businesses, you're actually supporting the employees that work there that right now have the blessing of a boss that says, hey, I respect your values and your freedoms. I'm not forcing you to wear a mask no matter what. I'm not forcing you to get a vaccine you don't need no matter what. We've got to be thinking about not just the business owners, right? You know, we love them, but the people that work under them that are suddenly going to be thrown into a communist type corporation structure if they no longer have a freedom loving business to work for.
Yeah, I mean, and what's interesting is that they've admitted that that's their goal. Like all this is intentional. And you know that. We've talked about this before together, that everything that they're doing on this other side, they didn't just slip into this. This is very, very intentional. In fact, the World Economic Forum has laid out their plan for 2030. And it's basically that the world would become this big technocracy where a few companies would own everything because they're the only ones that we can trust with our environmental future and our social governance. I mean, that's really their belief. Their belief is that most people are stupid. All you little plebes in your local communities, you don't know how to run the world, and all you're doing is polluting it. So therefore, you should have less babies. We should run your lives, and you should become a renter's class that takes what we give you because you won't bite the hand that feeds you, and leave it at that. Trust us with your future. Now eat these bugs. I mean, that's literally what they're saying out loud. And so they call them global stakeholders. The World Economic Forum has come out and has said that they have these few companies, a few hundred of them, that they have highlighted as the kings of industry, the titans of industry in these different sectors. And they are basically going to bestow almost a governance power on these businesses in the name of stakeholder capitalism, which is a total assault on true capitalism. And those entities are also the only ones able to lobby a big government. So you have this perfect storm created where there's a corrupt world government institution that empowers certain mega corporations to do their bidding to their governments. In the process, small businesses get hosed with over-regulation. They don't get to lobby the government for the tax breaks like the mega corporations have. And then you have these small businesses, 47% of them, going out of business, more people routed to these mega corporations, and the cycle just continues. And so it's this power structure that's really detrimental for average people that want nothing to do with this whole globalist mentality. And it's important that we, the people, stop it. We're the only people that can. Government's not going to stop it. I see people all the time thinking, well, gosh, if we can just elect our guy, then it'll all get better. And while that certainly can help with some things, I mean, I can't stand our president. He's a major problem factor in everything I just described. And it would certainly be better to have a different one. While that is the case, like, it still doesn't fully scratch the itch. It does not change the ship's direction. The only way that happens is if 30 million Americans stand up. It doesn't take a ton of us. It just takes a chunk of us to stand up and say, like, what they're selling, we will not buy. We refuse to be a renter's class. We refuse to let our individual liberties be stripped away. And we refuse to eat the bugs. Like, we are going to prioritize the American way of life that has been set in stone as the greatest experiment this world has ever run. And we're not going to let that fall on the wayside just because you think that we're releasing too many emissions, even while you refuse to criticize China for increasing emissions 3x what we're doing currently. So it's also the hypocrisy of all this. You watch the same people that are virtue signaling to us about how dangerous we are to the environment. Those are the same people flying across the world in their climate jets. Like, we should stop taking social, environmental, or governance or economic advice from these people that have no willingness to practice what they preach. They don't even believe it. They're buying beach homes on oceanfront flat properties while they're claiming the seas are going to swamp it in 10 years. So they don't believe what they're saying. They just want you to shift your spending habits. They want you to be afraid so that you'll give them more power. And we, the people, can stand up and say, absolutely not. With tools like Public Square, we're going to push back. We are going to turn our Public Square into being a force for good and a force for this American experiment to continue.
Absolutely. And, one of the things that you touched on was their belief system. It's like, I sat on the plane next to someone and I was trying to have an intellectual conversation, but it did not go well because he was expressing his disdain for how the world is going and how the nation is going. And he said, we just need to go back to the 1800s with, this and this and this, and all of this didn't exist. And I said, you're literally sitting on an airplane with me, going to a place far, far away, and you think that we shouldn't be doing this. And the guy next to me said, yeah, this is a lot faster than a stagecoach. And I laughed it off, but I thought, you're such the problem. Like, you think that the things that you care about more than the things I care about are important. And I actually told him that. I said, listen, I don't care about the environment as much as you do. I really don't. I care more about babies dying. I care about my taxes. I care about the social issues. I care about the indoctrination of my children. I care about those things way more than I will ever care about how much gas this plane is putting out, or fuel, or whatever. And the fact that you think that the government should step in and control something that I don't care about is alarming to me, because you're saying the same thing, that the government has overstepped and that our nation is on this terrible, this terrible path. Yet you're at the same time saying, because there are issues you care about, I should care about them too. And I believe that what you're doing is bringing together, and I know there's a movement of conservatism, but all of that conservatism, I believe, goes back into people's faith. And a lot of Christians are what's leading this movement, not just conservatives. It's people with biblical values saying, sure, I don't like paying more taxes. Sure, I hate the president. Sure, I don't like how the economy is. But more importantly, what's concerning me are these other issues, and those happen to be moral and biblical. So tell me about how God, Christ, your faith has sort of helped you in this movement, or how it's helped you lay the groundwork for this movement, or, what other part it might play that we're not aware of.
Yeah, he is the reason I'm doing all this, ultimately. I mean, I tell our team all the time, we love liberty because we know the author. I don't love liberty for liberty's sake. I don't love the Constitution for the Constitution's sake. I love these tenets of the American experiment because they were modeled after the righteousness that the Creator has described in the Scriptures. And so I do. I love my liberties because I know the God that authored them. And I believe that the best way that we can function as a society is by holding the tenets found in the Constitution dear. Because, like John Adams said, the Constitution was only meant for a virtuous people. It was only meant for a virtuous and religious group of people that would recognize that their liberties were endowed by their Creator. And because they weren't given by government, they cannot be taken away. If I believe that my rights as a human being were given to me by God, then I believe also that the only person that could take them away is God. The government cannot give them or take them. And therefore, I'm a free, sovereign individual in service to a beautiful God who has ordained a plan for me that no man can step in the way of, including a government. That was what the American experiment was based upon. And so it's our inspiration for everything that we're doing as a company. Now, our company, we're not exclusively Christian businesses. We allow businesses to join as long as they agree to not violate these few values of ours. But you're spot on. We're doing what we do because we love so passionately what we love, not because we hate so passionately what we hate. We're running towards something, not away from something. I think there are so many people in the conservative movement, unfortunately, they're in a pattern of escapism. Like, gosh, the only way that we can survive is if we all just go live on, a commune somewhere with our chickens. And I don't blame people. I don't blame people for feeling that way. And I love chickens. We've got somewhere we live right now. And I love the idea of self-sustaining. I love the idea of a homestead. I love the idea of taking your land and really building a life there. That's wonderful. But the answer to the system's problems is not to completely depart from the system, turn off your phone, and never pay attention again. Because all you're doing is taking away a change agent. Instead, what we should do is follow God's call for our life, push in, change where we're planted, and try to create this effect that multiplies across society. And so for some people, that does look like going, living in a small town, departing, being on the farm, but change your city while you're there. Change your small town. For other people, that looks like, yeah, you know what? They're stuck in a city. They're stuck in a blue city and they've got nowhere to go. And God's really planted them there for whatever reason. And that's where he's called them. Amazing. Change your community there. But the problem we run into is when people just say, you know what? I'm tapped out. I'm done. I'm not even caring anymore. My brain is turned off. I'm plugging my ears. I'm done. That's a really dangerous spot to be, because then you become basically useless. And if anything, you're a tool for the other side.
Right.
Because they've now proven the point that if they just push you hard enough, eventually you'll tap out. And
Yep.
it's really dangerous to fall into that. So our faith is everything. It's why we do what we do. We believe in the Great Commission. We believe we're called to something greater than ourselves, and our team has bought into that. And because of that, we've seen success that's greater than ourselves. The success that Public Square has seen thus far, the growth that we've had in the last year, less than a year now, has nothing to do with us. It has everything to do with the mission. And I think that keeps us humble when we realize that, like, God doesn't need us for this. He could change the country without us, but he, in his master plan, has decided to use us. And what an honor that is, even as broken people. Yep. And so it's really been the adventure of a lifetime because of the one who authored it.
That's so amazing. I absolutely agree with the idea that it's like touching back on, this is what God called you to do, is put together a massive platform that conservatives and Christians can do. And if you know that it's what God's calling you to do, how is he not going to bless it? That's incredible. So something I want to ask you about, I would love to hear your answer on this, because I've had to answer this a couple times. So since I've been cancel cultured, I know that the concept is, okay, if you don't align with me, you're going to leave bad reviews, you're going to stop doing business with me, you're going to this and this. I have preached so often on social media about, this is how we put our money where our mouth is. This is how we make the difference. And I've had a leftist, which of course, like you said, they're certifiably crazy. Compare the idea that I'm doing business with other like-minded individuals. They're comparing that to cancel culture. Oh, well, now you're canceling all the liberal businesses. You're actively calling your followers to bankrupt and other companies. And I would be curious what your very intellectual response to that would be.
Oh, well, I don't know how intellectual it'll be, but
it's like, how do you argue with stupid? I know.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. And it's almost hard because they don't see the blatant lack of logic they're using. There's a difference between promotion and canceling. And so when you are promoting something you believe in, which is the whole purpose of Public Square, that's very different than saying, all I want to do is go leave bad reviews on this person's Yelp page to cancel them, which is exactly what they've done over the last 2 years. So the cognitive dissonance, the inability to actually see that laid out clearly, because that's not a difficult concept to understand. Like, there's a difference between promoting what you believe in and canceling the things you don't. And even when we say go woke, go broke, the only way that they went broke is because people left them. It's not like they went and left bad reviews on Disney and that's what tanked them. Like, that's not why their stock prices dropped 40%. It's because they took a gamble on progressivism and the gamble has failed. It has not paid off like they thought they would, because consumers said, I'm going to go find a better option. And so, even on our app, we don't have necessarily like a blacklist on the app that's just, here's all the businesses you should hate. Not that I would actually think that there's any problem with that.
Right.
But the thing that we try to focus on instead is like, you know what? I don't care what the left's doing. Here's where you should go. This is what you should spend your money on. And I believe that by focusing on that, focusing on the redirection for the American consumer, you're going to end up making the change that we were talking about this whole episode. So yeah, again, it's cognitive dissonance. It's Stockholm syndrome, falling in love with their abusers. I mean, the left has taught them that they're in a holy war against anyone that believes that there are only two genders. And so therefore, if they're to be a strict adherent to their religious tenets, they have to go and write 1-star reviews on everyone's Google posts for their different coffee shops. Like, that's not our strategy. Our strategy is to realize that the American consumer has monetary power and to use that power toward the values we believe in. Does that sound like canceling? No, of course not. It sounds like promoting the special, the beauty, the things that have made America special. But again, they don't have a value for that. The left doesn't see beauty. It's not something that's inherent to them, because the whole kind of raison d'etre, the reason for being on the left, is to destroy. And so the idea that you'd be building something up is just unfathomable to them. They can't do that. The whole thing is to deconstruct. That's their entire worldview. And so, it's kind of a funny argument to try to confront against, because you can just pick those two situations. So me spending money at this coffee shop because they don't donate to killing babies, somehow that's the same as you going on and leaving that coffee shop a 1-star review, even though you've never stepped foot in the establishment. Like,
thank you. Yeah.
How's that the same?
But it is. They can somehow they can manage. I don't want to hear it because it'll make me dumber. But it gave me a good idea, though. You know how when you buy kind of an off brand and it says compare with, and then it names some big company, your like Ziva sunglasses, that's who you're promoting. You could write compare with, right? The off brand woke company of this. And you're subliminally letting people know, hey, this is who you should be supporting, of course. here's who you might not want to support. Wink, wink, wink. Like
Yep.
they're the off brand.
Yep.
So
Yeah. I mean,
awesome. Well,
that's actually a great idea. I think that also too, you have to really define what cancel culture means. Like, do you mean, um, again, do you mean I'm going to leave you a 1-star review and I've never even been in your restaurant? I mean, that happened to a coffee shop down here during COVID. There were
yeah.
people from Montana leaving this guy reviews in San Diego. They had clearly never been in their establishment, and yet they were canceling them and leaving these 1-star reviews. Like, is that what you mean? Because yeah, that's pretty distorted and awful. But if you mean like, I'm going to stop doing that because it violates my convictions, if that's what you call cancel culture, then that I actually believe in. Like, so I also think you have to define your terms, and the left often will have
Right.
the terms be a moving target so that they can try
Yes.
to win arguments. They make up
Yeah.
random words even to win
Yep.
arguments. And so I think that's the other thing that people need to define is like, well, do you mean that like I'm going to burn down your business, or do you mean that I'm just going to stop shopping there? Because if it's that, like, I'm all for that. Like, boycotts are not inherently bad. If it's what I believe in, that's great. You should boycott certain things. Excuse me.
Yes.
So I think it's just important that we define our terms too.
Well, yeah, and I agree. We try very, very hard our side to define things, make things very black and white, make things clear, live by certain morals and standards, and then they're always trying to come in and convolute what we're doing. But I am so proud of what you're doing. I'm thankful that you've finally given people a resource, and can't encourage people enough to get on. So it's publicsq.com if it's a website, but it's Public Square, the app, if it's on your iPhone or Android. Cute little purple app. We'll put an image up. And you can contact me directly to get a link to get your business verified, sign the values. What are the values so that businesses know?
Yeah, great question. I actually can read them out to you real quick. There are 7
Perfect.
values. And basically what we ask businesses to do is not to spend time, money, or resources antagonistically against these 7 values. So these 7 are: number 1, we believe the United States is a free country, a net positive to the world at large, and is worth protecting. Number 2, we believe the Constitution and Bill of Rights are essential and they must be prioritized and respected. Number 3, we believe in a limited government system that represents constituents instead of ruling over them. Number 4, we believe in the sanctity and importance of the family unit, including the protection of the unborn. Number 5, we see people for who they are. So we reject intersectionality. We don't see people for their skin color, gender, or ethnicity. We believe that, like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, we ought to be judged not by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. Number 6, we believe in a free market system of economics that prioritizes the voluntary exchange of goods between consumers and the businesses they patronize, free from as much government intervention as possible. And finally, number 7, we believe in the rights of individuals to take responsibility for their own health choices, meaning we adamantly stand against all vaccine mandates, mask mandates, vaccine passports, both for employees and for their consumers that patronize their business. So those are our 7 values. We believe that those are high level, but also are clear enough to where a business knows, yep, you know what, this is a platform that I want to be a part of. This is a reflection of my own personal convictions, and my business is going to be in alignment with these things. It's free for business to join. It's free for the user to join. We won't ask you for any money. We make our money on advertising, so we don't need to charge users or businesses. Some businesses that decide to advertise with us see massive returns, which is great news. So we're glad that we can be that advertising source for these businesses that want to, but that's a small percentage of our businesses. Most businesses jump on and they're free. They've got their free platform and they love the experience. And so we encourage people to join, try it out, see what you think, and you'll be amazed at the type of people that start to patronize your establishment because they feel like they're not alone.
Absolutely. Actually, now that you say that, that makes another great point. What business owner doesn't want to see friendlier, happier, faith-based, smiling, free customers in their business? I would much rather, if I owned a brick and mortar store still, have a bunch of conservative MAGA hats walking through, happy, smiling with their kids, family-oriented, faith-based, loving life, joy, the joy of Jesus, than have a bunch of hooded, black, angry, depressed, fascists come in and cause a scene in my store. So businesses that want to get on your platform can do so for free. I can send them a link. They can sign up for free. Email me, you guys, Lindsay@patriotbarbie.com if you want the link to get verified. And start getting people in your business that create a beautiful culture, a happy society, and a society that is making a difference. And Michael, where can people find you if they want to follow your entrepreneurial journey with Public Square?
Oh, thanks, Lindsay. Yeah. So a few places you can follow me on Twitter at Real Michael Seif, MichaelSeif. That's me on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram at Real Michael Seifert. So my last name, Seifert. And then you can also follow Official Public SQ on Instagram if you want to follow along with some of the journey. But obviously the best way to get started and to kind of get exposed to the whole ecosystem is head to publicsq.com. And that'll route you to wherever you want to go, whether you want to download the app, whether you want to use it just from the website, learn a little bit more about the company, see the types of businesses that you might find on the platform. That's a great place to get started. So I'd love it if you guys would join us on the journey.
Awesome. And you guys, I absolutely encourage downloading the app, because take Amazon off your phone, take whatever other business apps you use to find companies. And I go straight to this app so that I know, even if I can't yet find what I'm looking for, I tried there first. And there's actually not a whole lot that I can't find on there. So I've been very pleasantly surprised. As an ambassador, I've registered hundreds and hundreds of businesses, so I already know all the conservatives. But yeah, download the app, Public Square. And Michael, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for letting the Lord lead you into creating a platform that really, truly is going to change America. I mean that with all my heart. I'm so honored by what you've done. I'm glad you did it right. I'm glad God never let me do it my way, because your way is way better. And I'm honored to support you and promote you at every chance. Thank you.
Well, the honor's all mine, Lindsay. It has been a blessing to run with you, and excited for all that's to come. Appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to the Patriot Barbie podcast. Follow me on Truth Social at the Patriot Barbie and Instagram at the.patriot.barbie. Subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with your friends. You can find this show, my book Targeted, and my apparel line on www.patriotbarbie.com. God bless America, and God bless you.
It's Dylan's KC Barbecue at 4 Valley locations. Our sports bar in Arrowhead is packed with TVs for the ultimate sports fan. Our Wildlife World Zoo location will have you on the edge of your seat, dining right next to our 60,000-gallon shark tank. Dylan's Bayou at Pleasant Harbor has never-ending sunsets, beautiful people, and live music every weekend. And our newest location, Western Trails Ranch, is 12 acres of rodeo fun and live outdoor concerts for the entire family. It's Dylan's KC Barbecue, where we're elite, unique, and memorable.